Duck. It's time to rock. It's the Sunday show. It's Ranking the Tracks show here on the channel. I'm here, ladies and gentlemen, with the Backdoor Man and the Rock Professor. After a busy weekend on the channel, Brad, we had the #1 Van Halen fan in the United States of America joining us yesterday, brother.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. 100%. And the nicest guy in the Van Halen community, Andrew. So, yeah.
Unbelievable, bro. I can't not agree with that, Simon. What about you?
Yeah.
What? I can't not agree with that either. Mikey Mojo's a fantastic guy. Tremendously enthusiastic. Keeps it really positive, and hats off, Mikey, for you for that.
It was a great show. Yeah.
Fun.
Mm.
Yeah.
What I like about him in particular, Brad, you nailed it on the head. You know, he's got that passion, and he's hell of a nice guy. And you know, we keep saying it between ourselves, don't we? When we get guests on, you know, that passion shines through and it pushes through, and that enthusiasm, you know, rubs off, and it's contagious, Simon. You know, even at our old ages, Simon.
Even in, yes.
Yeah, we're all young at heart. All that matters. Yeah. We're all young at heart.
That's great.
Mikey's a fantastic addition to the channel. So whenever he can come on, it's great to have him on board. We love it.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. You know, and it's good that we have I think we've got a really good Van Halen contingent to come on, and John, Mikey, Jim, go.
I'm a little bit jealous, I must admit, because I really want to be able to get on a plane and go and watch the Best of All Worlds tour that Sammy's doing. I wish I could go and watch it. So
it's only a credit card bill away, Brad.
Don't encourage me. I mean,
honestly, I know. Yeah, and I was going to say, and if that's not stirring it up, I don't know what is.
No, definitely can't afford it after my run of holidays I've had in the last
right.
few months.
Yeah. See, we'll have to fend off accusations of your enormous YouTube earnings, making you fly around the world. Look, he's doing it again.
Yes. What earnings?
Mr. Walton's keeping them all. Don't worry, for his beachside residence.
Yeah, for my block of sand, my sand bucket of sand.
He started off. He's got a bucket.
So we've had some good views on the channel, guys. We had some great views yesterday on the Van Halen show, and the week before we were tracking pretty well on the Little Feat show, Simon.
Yeah, happy with that. I mean, clearly it's more of a niche interest album, and that's fine as far as I'm concerned. But we had some great views on the John Mayall stuff. We're up to 1.8k views on the Beano celebration show a couple of weeks ago, which is really cool. That continues to gain views, and 1.1k for the John Mayall tribute show we did. And that's very pleasing that people are jumping on those and watching them. Yeah. You know, as we said a lot.
Older videos too that we've done too that I share on our Facebook accounts, guys. Get some good comments too, and we're starting to build a bit of a reputation, even though we didn't do this at the start to gain a reputation, but we're sort of slowly gaining a reputation for talking about bands and music, Brad, that people like. So kind of humbling, isn't it?
Oh, very humbling. It's very nice, very kind of people to give us a lot of accolade for what we're doing, because we're just doing it because we love the music. So we're fans, that's all. We're just having fun. If we were all in the same town drinking a pint each together, or whatever it may be, or having a coffee together, we'd be talking about exactly the same thing. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's really the point, isn't it? That's all we haven't got above our heads is the Green Dragon for us to be sitting in talking about our bands and music and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you're right, Simon, and we've always said this, and we like to remind people every now and again, don't we? That we're not pretending or purporting to be experts. We're just three guys who are fans getting together, taking advantage of social media. And we have some awesome co-hosts and guests join us who do the same thing, Simon. That's it.
Absolutely. Yep. And that's the whole tenet of it. We are just fans. In spite of my portentous title as the Rock Professor, awarded by nobody except
A
Mr. Walton.
self-appointed
But,
title too.
Yes, self-aggrandizing is what I'm going with.
And they're always the best ones.
Yeah. Delusionary. Self-delusion is the thing that's a legend in my own mind. Let's not be fooling over it. That there are people in the chat who know a lot more than I will ever know about it, and my co-host too. So it's fun, and that's where it's going to stay. But yes, rest assured that don't think I've given or Mr. Walton's given me this title for anything other than having a bit of a chuckle about it. You'll get any ideas.
Yeah. I
Cool.
want to remind you folks, if you are watching on a replay, 6 minutes in, I don't do this often. I normally tail this towards the end, but we got to do this kind of at the start, please, to remind people that might just only be watching at the start that we have some social media accounts that we'd like you to follow, please. They're pretty easy. If you haven't already subbed to our channel, please do. At the end of the show, I will attach Brad and the Rock Professor's social media links. I promise I'll do that on as many shows as I can. But in the meantime, there they are. Brad Cook Music. If you find Brad over there, and you can find his other social media accounts from there, and also the Rock Professor, Simon Williams 33. And also Brad and Simon, our dear friend John ZD351, has an Instagram account as well. So please go and follow him.
Yeah. I just I started. Derek Clacton and I have connected on Instagram, so we've been having message conversations this week. I've been introducing him to the parochial world of West Country sayings.
Fantastic.
Andrew, you failed to keep reminding people to go and follow you on Instagram as well. It's so it's the
boss.
The _5150 _show. That's his handle on Instagram.
I'll put that on there, bro. But if you want to find me over there, you can find me on either one of Brad's or Simon's. Yeah. So and if you want to have your Instagram account advertised there on a banner, please let me know, let Simon know, or Brad know, and we'll chuck your Instagram handle up there as well, and you can take advantage of that. That's the least we can do. And also we want to remind you too that on our channels page on the banner, if you go and have a look, you'll see channels as well, and there's all our friends there. Please go and subscribe to all our friends.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, which is fantastic. Yeah. So we try and be a very community-orientated channel and have those things, and happy to promote other people's stuff. Get a couple of our acolytes have recently gone over 1,000 subscribers. So they're Jim and Great Vanzini. So it's been fantastic to see.
And I would like to think. Well, I know I've had personal messages from Great Vanzini thanking our channel for pushing his channel, guys, for a while. So it's always pleasing. We don't do this, obviously, Brad, to get pats on the back. It's not what it's about. But it's really nice, for. Great Vanzini in particular. I have to do a shout out because he has sent me personally a few messages thanking us, Simon, for promoting his channel towards the end there. So another channel, guys, that we've helped promote.
Yes. We're good at promoting other channels, Andrew. I think we do a great job of it.
We've done a few.
Part of being a community, isn't it? It's not all about us. It's not all about us.
We've done a few. So, and we also know, obviously, guys, that a lot of people have done the same thing for us. So we're going to start talking about music now. There's a couple of things that we want to do beforehand. I know that Brad's got some interesting news that I think a lot of people would want to hear. So, Brad, I'll get you to share that, and then the Rock Professor
Yeah.
maybe should do a shout out, and we'll start the
I'll
show.
do a shout
What
out.
do you guys
Yeah.
reckon?
Yeah.
Look, bit of sad news on the front for rock and roll. Basically, one of the greatest American rock and roll bands of all time, Aerosmith. They've called it quits and retired from live performances. Now, we don't know whether that means the odd show here or there, another album, who knows. But Steven Tyler has had some dramas with his vocal cords. He had some surgery done, and I think he's just not, he's bowing out respectfully from performing live. I don't think he feels like it's fair to the fans to go out there and struggle through each song, probably also doing himself irreparable damage doing that as well. So we want to send all of our heartfelt thanks to one of the greatest rock and roll bands in America, Aerosmith. So, those guys are just phenomenal. And I was talking to Andrew in the green room. I think we will do we'll do a ranking of the tracks of something to do with Aerosmith. So yeah, definitely.
On the list, another
band we really
my short list of bands that we still need to do.
And they are one of my favorite bands of all time. I mean, Aerosmith has been in my playlist pretty much since I started playing guitar, So be looking forward to deep diving into a few of their records. So all the best to Steven Tyler and the guys from Aerosmith, Joe Perry, Brad Whitford and the guys. They're wonderful musicians. I've seen them a couple of times live, and really there is no better front person than Steven Tyler. He's one of the greatest of all time. So, much appreciation, and warm thoughts to you at the moment, mate.
Yeah, but I think it's the right decision. I think if you can't, we've discussed it a lot. Doing it in a kind of sort of where your vocals are really exposed because you're not really singing or you can't really do it anymore. I think beyond a certain point you've got to go, I think I'm just going to stop.
Smart move. They've gone out on a bit of a high note rather than go out on a low note, which is a smart move, really.
Well, it's the right decision. It is the right decision. If you can't do it properly, then then don't do it. Really,
that's right. Yeah.
Case for carrying on, but I'm sure they don't. Well, I don't know. I'm sure they don't need the money. I say that, but they might need the money.
No, and who knows what they might do. I think you're right, Brad. If they're going to do something, it might be in the studio, where the effort and the pressure on the voice isn't going to be so intense. So all the best, Steve Tyler. Certainly grew in my heart when he took a lead role in the Peter Green tribute gig that they did a couple of years ago, 4 years ago now. And obviously the other Toxic Twin too, being a huge guitar player who's influenced a lot. The American Keith Richards, if you want. So hugely influential. Yeah, you got it.
I'm heavily influenced by Joe Perry. You know what I mean? So for me, it's hopefully the guys keep doing it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Anyway. All the best.
Good on you, Brad.
Yeah.
Good on you, bro. Rock Professor.
Right, let's do a quick shout out. So good morning to Derek Clacton. You and I have been having fun this week. Ellen as well. Good morning, Ellen. Phil Byers. Morning, Phil. Got the 5150 show. Brad Cook. Some bloke called Brad Cook. Gretch Zeppelin. Morning, Gretch. Good to see you. Albert Arthur Parsnips. What a great name that is. Welcome, Albert, for that. That's a fantastic name. Is he somebody you know, Mr. Walton? This is somebody you know.
No. He's just been on our show for the last few shows, so it's a pleasure to have him.
Yeah, and Tony Bowen as well. Morning, Tony. Hope you're good. Good week.
Yeah.
So that's everyone who's made comments. I think. If you want me to say hi, just make a comment and I'll slip it into the conversation. So awesome. Fantastic to see you all. Thank you very much for joining us, and lots of great comments already whistling through. Thank you for those.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you, Brad, for that great shout out to Aerosmith, and Rock Professor doing the shout out, and we'll do one at the end too. So the album that we're doing this week, folks, we picked it mainly, it was to celebrate the passing of the life of John Mayall a couple of weeks ago now, guys. Hugely influential. We've done a couple of shows already on John Mayall, and we've ranked a couple of other blues breaker albums. So this is the third in what's called probably the three greatest British electric blues albums, Simon. The Beano album, A Hard Road, and this album here, Crusade. For a lot of reasons, but in particular for me, guys, the guitar players. Eric Clapton on the first album. The second album featured Peter Green, and this album here features Mick Taylor, who went on and grew in fame with a band called, a little band from London, Brad, called the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Little
It's a
old
little
band from
band.
London. Yeah, yeah. It's, and we should say it, as Phil By says, only 18 years old.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we've got some pics to prove that too, folks. At halftime, we'll throw some pics up.
We've got his birth certificate to prove it.
Yeah. Hey, Jonas. Good to see you, Jonas.
Good morning, Jonas. Nice to see
But
you.
this is an album that we've been talking about, you know, in the back, behind the back scenes, folks, you know, for a while to do. And as you know, if something happens in the mainstream music world, we kind of like to link something in, Brad, don't we? You know, if it's an anniversary or a birthday. And unfortunately, sometimes, Simon, if it's someone passing, you know, we'd like to sort of, you know, pay our little bit as fans to attribute to their legacy. And as a result of that, I suppose we should dedicate this show to the memory and the legacy of John Mayall. So rest in peace, John.
Rest in peace, John.
Well, he did well, didn't he? 90 years old, still touring when he was in his late 80s. So hats off to him. I think that's a life well lived, isn't it? You know, and doing what he wanted to do from the early 60s until the 2020s. And I think anybody who can say that about their life, looking back like that, I think is that's a big tick, isn't it? That's a successful life.
100%, Simon. 100%. And again, you know, we mentioned it before, and you know, eventually I'll get onto the intro, folks. Just be a little bit patient. But you know, it's really, really nice to see other fans. We've mentioned this before. Fans like us pay tribute. You know, Tony Bowen, our friend in the chat, posted photos of him at various gigs with John over the years, and also photos of albums that John had signed. Brad, you know, and I love that, because these are just ordinary fans that we kind of know through social media, as well as the big guns like John Bonamassa and Kurt Hammett and Eric Clapton, you know, talking about their relationship with John Mayall, Simon. So, you know, it's just good to see the ordinary music dude and dudess getting involved, isn't it?
Oh. Absolutely, yeah. Morning, Mission RD 100. Good to see you. Just slipping in. Yes, it is. It is good that you know that it's widespread and, you know, not confined to superstars. That's, you know, just good. I'm glad we're able to get in on it and, you know, and pay our tribute to, you know, a great man who did you know, lots of great things. You know, the Godfather of British blues. So I think that's a well-earned title. You know,
Yeah.
him and
100%.
Alexis Corner will be fighting it out between them. But yeah, I think so. With his track record.
And there's going to be another guy too who I think might be slotting under that category too, I think, and we'll probably be talking about him later on as we rank this album, guys. So we won't mention it now, but it's my opinion he could be in one of those great category titles, Brad, that sometimes rock and roll foists on people.
Mm.
Can you have the three Godfathers? I don't know.
You can have as many Godfathers as you want. We've got the
You're like,
Godfather 1, the Godfather 2, Brad, and we've got the Godfather 3.
the
So
3. Yes, you mean following on from Francis Ford Coppola's example, we can have at least 3 Godfathers. Nobody better complain.
you got it. We've got our dear
The
friend
Godfather.
Helen in the chat too.
Oh, nice. Hello, good morning. How are you? Hope you're good.
Yeah.
Yes, the 3 Godfathers. There's the Godfather.
Yeah.
Godfather 1,
Yeah.
3. Lovely. Yes.
Guys, I'm going to kick off with a little bit of an intro. As usual, it's the habit here on the show that the guys after me are going to add a little bit of thoughts and impressions they have to the intro, and then we're going to talk about how we first came across this album. I don't know who's going to be ranking after me. Is it going to be you, Brad, or the Rock Professor?
It's going to be Brad.
I'm happy to
be Brad. Okay, so I'll talk about how then in my intro how I came across the album. We'll flick it over to the Backdoor Man and the Rock Professor, and then we'll kick off the rankings as usual. If you want to share with us in the chat also too how you first came across this album, please do, because it's all about a collaboration. So Crusade guys first came out, as I understand, according to Mr. Wikipedia, Brad, and he's never wrong, on the 1st of September in 1967. And it was the follow-up, as we've already mentioned, to A Hard Road, which featured Peter Green, and the album before that, the Beano album, which featured Eric Clapton. And there was another album that John Mayall did too. But generally speaking, for Blues Breaker fans, it'll be normally those 3 albums. So we're kind of cool in the categories of having it sorted and boxed and delivered, Simon, with this album. Recorded in one day, guys. And when I first saw that on Wikipedia, I had to go and sort of get some information about that. So there's some discrepancies about how many days it was recorded. So I'd be keen to hear what you guys have to say. Either way, we know from the other albums, Brad, that these albums were recorded pretty quickly. Basically, they're sets that they do, and these guys aren't fools. They know what they're doing, and they're in the studio. But this album here has a little bit of a difference compared to some of the other albums, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, as we go through and rank the tracks. Recorded at the famous Decca West Hampstead Studios in London, Simon, where a lot of great albums were recorded by the Decca technicians, who were clearly well and truly just a little bit above the average, weren't they, Simon?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I also think that hats off to Mike Vernon. He's produced this album as well. Really got in the groove, and really understands how to record this this band, and so I think that it's very well recorded, and it's of its time a little bit, but the stereo is a bit of its time, but I think it's really well recorded, especially the guitars, and I think he does a fantastic job, Mike. And if they did do it in 7 hours, and that's what I'd read as well, they've done it in 7. I don't know whether 7 hours is. That includes mixing, by the way. That's what I read. I read it in 3 or 4 places. Maybe not.
Phil's in the chat's hit the nail on the head. It's 10 hours.
10.
And I think over time, some journalists have recently, and I don't want to name the publications, but editors have confused 7 hours or 10 hours, Brad, with days. So there are some articles which say that this album was recorded over 7 or 10 days. So, but that's the discrepancy. So we're here to say, I'm going to stick with what Phil said, and it's in Mayall's book too. It's approximately 10 hours, which is not bad.
The album 7 hours recording and 3 hours mixing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The album is particularly famous for a lot of fans like myself, because it features, as we've already said, the debut of a 18-year-old fresh-faced young guitar prodigy, a guy called Mick Taylor, who went on after this album and did great things with a band called the Rolling Stones. as well as other personnel on this album, the horn players, two sax players. We've got John McVie on bass and Keith Hartley, and Simon and Brad. We've ranked Keith Hartley on the channel as well. So kind of making another link there, Brad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, I was watching a John Mayall documentary, and John McVie was on it. Apparently, when he was in it, he used to be a big drinker, John McVie, and he used to really annoy John Mayall. And several times he turfed him out up north to walk home.
Yeah,
And sacked him, and then got him back
yeah.
the next day. It's quite a long occasion. McVie, aged 18, hoofed out up north somewhere. He's kind of left to get home on his own.
Clapton mentions that episode too in his biography, so it's
Yeah.
hilarious. John was a disciplined taskmaster as a band leader, but paid well. And that's probably the responsibility of a band leader and band musicians. As the Rock Professor said too, guys, this album features who I consider probably he'll be considered maybe one of the godfathers of the British electric blues scenes, Mike Vernon, who went on and helped produce some of these great albums. This is the third album that he produced that we've mentioned, the Beano, the Hard Road, and obviously this album here. And this album has some subtle production differences
Yes.
that are built on that surpassed some of the other productions on the previous albums. And again, folks, we'll talk about that on some of the tracks. That's pretty much my intro, guys. Before I hand it over to my other co-hosts to add their comments, Brad, I became aware of this album probably in the early 90s.
Yes.
Now, when I say aware of it, Simon, I mean like fully aware of having it in my hand and knowing the tracks and listening to it. I think in the late 80s, there were about 3 or 4 tracks that I knew that were on remixes and greatest hits albums that we would have heard over the years. But I certainly think this was about 94 or 95 where I actually had the CD version and was captivated and blown away by it, and then sort of went forward from that period, guys, till about, again, 2010, 2011. And it's been on constant rotation with these other albums. And I'm really sort of kind of looking forward to talking about this album with you guys. So, Brad, I'm going to pass it over to you, and then the Rock Professor, if you can add anything to my intro in your comments, brother.
Look, I can't really add too much more, Andrew, other than the fact that I was similar to you, probably sort of early to mid 90s. I discovered this album. In my discoveries, going back into the blues and listening to, the John Mayall stuff. Obviously, my interest in John Mayall really stemmed from the Eric Clapton sort of link, you know what I mean? Then obviously loving Mick Taylor as well from the Stones and listening to this record, and really getting an appreciation for some of these songs, and then tying a lot of it back to a lot of the artists that I love as well, and hearing them play some of these songs and whatnot that are on this record. So it just goes to show how, I guess, for lack of better ways of putting it, influential John Mayall was on the blues community. And we're still talking about it like right now, which is amazing. So I don't want to give away too much with my rankings, because I've mentioned a few things in the song rankings about the songs and the tie-in and like the blues family tree, so to speak. But that really, my first real discovery of this, I was really shocked, blown away, and hearing some of these songs performed with Mick Taylor as well, especially there, they're fantastic. I really can't say much more without giving away my rankings, but that was my first real discovery into this album, guys. Simon.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a sort of peripheral thing. I can remember hearing it in the early '80s and things, but then not really picking up on it again until now. Really, just it's been there, and I know I've heard it before, but as I say, it's been a fine week listening to it this week, because I kind of reconnected with it, and re-familiarized myself with it as an album, and yeah, it's been a fun week driving around listening to it in my car and stuff, and on headphones, and on my stereo as well. Sounds good on the stereo. So that's been really enjoyable. We should say good morning to Mike Rogers. Morning, Mike, from Ohio.
Hey, Mike.
Nice one. Good to see you.
See you, Mike.
But yeah, so as I say, and you get the idea, with John Mayall, that I've been able to put a bit of, put it in that lineage with the other, with Hard Road, and the Eric Clapton, the Beano album, and you can see the influence that's there. You can see, John Mayall made this great threesome of albums. It's great, and as you said earlier, Andrew, they're kind of that they are one of the pillars of the the British blues rock scene of that time. And hats off to John Mayall for having the vision to do it, and Mike Vernon for persuading Decca to sign them up, and then recording 3 fantastic records with them.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Rock Professor. And as ever, we appreciate, guys, in the chat, if you want to contribute your rankings on this album. It would be really, really good, and we'll talk about them. Brad, so Oh Pretty Woman is the opening track, and when I heard this track, when I was fully conscious of it, Brad, in the early 90s, I was familiar with other versions of it. When did Gary Moore do his version of this? Can you remember?
Still Got the Blues came out in 91 off the top of my head.
Yeah. So it was, around, it would have been because of Gary Moore and obviously the Stones, Simon, that kind of pushed me into this album, because I remember reading guitar magazine articles where Moore was talking about, these albums, and he was naming them specifically, Brad. He just wasn't saying John Mayall. He was talking about the Beano album, A Hard Road, and Crusade. So he kind of, again, was opening his like a turnstile, Simon, into people going backwards into the British blues scene. So hats off to Gary Moore for doing that for me in particular. But I have to tell you guys that John's vocals are incredible on this track, and it's definitely a feature of this album, John's vocals. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. I just want to hear what my other co-hosts have to say. And then you've got a welcome, a hello, a g'day world from that tasty solo by Mick Taylor. It's just fantastic, isn't it? Not fully overboard, Simon. I love the reverb effect that Vernon has towards the end to give it that kind of depth before it, that last 20 seconds of the reverb effect. Just give me a second. I'm just closing the door here. And one other thing too, guys, that I really like about this track too is I like the subtleness of John Mayall's keyboards. You can hear them whether you're listening to it on an album or on your headphones, Brad and Simon. They're just there, and it's just a wonderful production technique. It's not pushed forward. It's a delicate piece of work. I love all versions of this song, Brad. Love it all, and I suppose this is probably where it began for a lot of rock and roll blues British guys, with this version of the song anyway. And I have to give it, Brad, a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, isn't a really great, upbeat, energetic sort of version of this song, I have to say. It's got a real lively tone. The whole album does. It's got that catchy riff that we all know so well, that driving rhythm,
Yep.
and it's showcasing how tight and cohesive the band is as well. Obviously, like you mentioned, Simon, this is a song that Gary Moore was notably known for from his successful Still Got the Blues album. Um, Going back listening to this record, especially even like this week, just rediscovering this record in a number of ways, because I forgot how great of a version this is. I'm so stuck in that Gary Moore "Oh Pretty Woman" vibe, because it's on daily rotation in my playlist almost for Gary Moore. So to actually hear this, it's really refreshing. Mick Taylor, he delivers like a real sharp, biting Les Paul tone. It's not too trebly. It's not too. It's like a mid range bite. It's really really growly. I love it. It's exciting. He's playing. He's so advanced for an 18-year-old man, and I'm going to say 18-year-old blues man, because everything he's doing is blues. It's not rock. It's blues, and I love that. As opposed to Gary Moore adding obviously a little bit more rock and finesse into the playing. I like it stripped back like this with that sort of real feel, blues feel, and dynamics that is going on there. The bass playing, John McVie provides that steady bluesy bass line. He's underpinning the track really with a really solid groove. Keith Hartley on the drums, really tight. That rhythm beat. It's got that driving forward feel, energetic, the way he does it. And John Mayall's vocals, gritty, soulful, very passionate, and conveys that message of the lyric exceptionally well. I think it's a marvelous version of the song. It's right up there, and I think it's groundbreaking, really, like for its time. And for that reason alone, I'm giving it 100 out of 10 and never a skip, guys.
Wow.
Simon.
Straight in with a Brad score. Boom.
What a way to start an album.
What a way to start now. Well, yes. I think that it's yes, Oh Pretty Woman, not that one. Just in case anyone's ever confused. I think that it sets up the sound and the way that I can see that Mike Vernon's got it, so you pan the guitar hard right, you pan the vocals hard left, and basically, so he works out where everything's going to be in the mix, and that seems to happen all the way through the album, pretty much. So once you set those things up, the panning, hard left and hard right, and whereabouts in the mix those instruments are going to be, that's where they are. I think that it's interesting that the guitars mix right up, isn't it? It's as you say, Brad, it's a kind of big sound to it. I mean, it's really well recorded. So that mid-range sound, it's kind of I felt like it was smoother than Clapton. Doesn't quite have the same bite as Clapton, but a bit smoother. But amazing playing. I mean, I do have to say, as you say, for an 18-year-old, any year old, but fantastic, inventive, bluesy solos that he plays. I also think that the positioning of the organ and the horns as well, kind of guitar underneath, is almost like the rhythm instruments, aren't they? They're just the horns quite often going, just kind of putting these little riffs in, these little things that are interesting, a bit lower in the mix, and that seems to go on, as I say, throughout the album, where those things are very much, it's mixed like that with those things at those particular levels, and gives it a very full sound, I have to say, isn't it? Horns, organ, bass, drums, guitar, and vocals, and gives it a full sound, and I think that's really good, and it's a great version of it. I think Mick Taylor, you can tell straight away that he's going to be that he's a talent, a real talent. So he's going to contribute massively to this record, and as you said, Andrew, and I made a note of it myself, that John Mayall's, I mean, he gets a bit of a slating for his vocals, doesn't he, sometimes, and but on here he's actually singing very strongly, and and that's fine. You know, it works very well with the material he's got. So hats to. I think that's one of his strongest vocal performances on the whole album, not just this track, but on the whole album. So I think it's a great opening track. I think it has everything you'd want from an opening track. So 10 out of 10 from me, and never a skip. Andrew.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Simon, and thank you, Brad, for your guys' contributions, and everybody in the chat. We've got Crappy Luxury, another British Electric Blues fan
Morning,
in the
Crappy.
chat joining us. So fantastic. And you're right, Tony. Exactly. It was Albert King made the song famous, and it was originally written by a guy called, if you give me 2 seconds, A.C. Williams. So, but yeah, certainly Albert King. And I've got a message from a good friend of ours, Carl, mentioning a fact to me too that we'll probably talk about a little bit more when the horns become obvious on some of these tracks. But Stax Records definitely had a huge influence on this album. So I just want to do a special shout out to our brother Carl for drawing our attention
Great
to that.
chat. Yeah, absolutely great chat.
Yeah. So the next track, guys, is Stand By Baby. And this is, Brad, where London meets Chicago again with that classic blues Chicago harp sound that John Mayall, up until 1967, Brad, had made a reputation on. He was spoken about and talked about in a lot of circles as a harp master, as well as being a singer, a band leader, and a keyboard player, Simon, you know. So other great harmonica players were talking about him as a huge influence, including Mick Jagger. We know Mick Jagger especially had a fondness for his harp playing. So this is where we get it. We get it, you know, clearly in the front, Brad. The guitars and the horns that feature on this track are down in the mix, and you've got the horns, man, you know, so there's no mistake about it. This is a John Mayall featured song, you know, and he's going to go forward with the harp. But we get an extra surprise, Simon, because John Mayall is playing slide guitar on this track. So, again, those Chicago blues elements featuring very, very early on this album with the harp and the slide. You can't beat that. Not quite a 10 out of 10, guys, but it's a 9, Brad. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. And I'm going to pass it on to you, brother.
Yeah, Stand Back Baby, it's got that sort of mid-tempo blues swing rhythm going on. The song blends some soulful vocals there, some real great melodic-y sort of guitar lines from Mick Taylor. There's a warm and a emotive sort of harmonica being played as well. Mick Taylor's, he brings that warmth and emotion to the track. There's some tasty sort of guitar playing there. That's the second time I've heard John Mayall has actually played slide on this track. So I wasn't 100% sure, Andrew, so I'm glad you confirmed that for me. Some great slide playing there. It's traditional. It sounds like it's you know, from someone sitting there on a you know, back in the old days in an old blues bar, just sitting there playing a slide, you know. Sounds like that style. The bass playing just really robust and, you know, foundational in that sort of swingy rhythm, and the drumming is dynamic. It's really enhancing the song's groove, and John Mayall delivers, you know, that expressive vocal again, and I have to agree with you guys, his vocal has a lot of depth on this record. I want to back you up too, Simon, with the guitar tone. It's more, it's not as bitey as Eric's guitar tone. It's a little bit more growly, and I do think that this guitar tone would have influenced Billy Gibbons as well, to go after that sort of tone, because it's in that ballpark. It's in that ballpark of that Billy Gibbons Les Paul sound. You know what I mean? Anyway, I've deviated a bit. Back on track to Stand Back Baby. I've given it 9 out of 10 and never a skip too, guys. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Simon.
Yes, it's kind of the introduction of the harp, isn't it? On this, really, you know, as the lead instrument, pretty much on it. You know, and I think, as you say, with John Mayall playing the slide solo at the end, yeah, it's very much Andrew, as you said, a kind of Mayall showcase, really, isn't it? You know, with instrumentally for sure, and because he does both the solos and you know, and you've got as I said earlier, you know, the bass, the drums, and the horns are kind of, you know, that kind of rhythm section. The horns are just, you know, bringing it in and giving it color and giving it you know, some interest as above and beyond just having, you know, guitar, bass, and drums and things. And I think that's you know, that's a really good introduction as well. I don't know, say introduction to the harp is, you know, where you'd want to put this. You know, I give it 8.5 out of 10. I think at 150, it's not the most the track with the greatest gravitas into it. So, but it's not a skip, never a skip. And yes, on to the next one, Mr. Walton.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. 10 out of 10 for Oh Pretty Woman by Alan, and Tony has given 10 out of 10 as well. So, you know, Helene, 8.5 out of 10. So, you know, you were tracking well. There seems to be some consistency there on this album so far. Next track, guys, is My Time After a While. And this is when it just, you know, that intro guitar solo, guys, is just phenomenal, isn't it? It's just breathtaking. I remember the first time I heard it, I just couldn't believe that this was a young 18-year-old, and I still can't today when I listen to this album. And then, like I've mentioned, guys, I'll show you some photos of an 18-year-old guy, and it's just unbelievable, Brad, that someone this good is just playing like this on this album. One thing I did notice, though, guys, in particular with the vocals on this, is that we've got a vocal track by John that's very reminiscent of the previous albums. So, you know, his vocals on this track could fit quite clearly in A Hard Road or the Beano album. And clearly it's an intentional production trick or technique. What did I say that, Brad? It's a technique that Verdon has employed, you know, to give his vocals, you know, a bit of contrast between the different tracks. And I hear this every time I've listened to it. I clearly hear it. It's not necessarily John singing any different, but I do believe it's just the way that it's been produced. I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say if you've noticed that at all. And I love the reverb, Simon, that they've put on the horn solo. You know, again, just that simple reverb trick gives it some depth. It's a fantastic track. Mick Taylor is starting to warm up, isn't he? You know, on this, you've got to be excited. And because of that, and I just want to make a little interesting point that Albert made in the track too, that in the 70s, John Mayall was considered a standalone figure despite his guitar playing buddies, which is a point that we have to sort of keep in mind too sometimes. But thank you for drawing our attention to that album. You know, it's not John Mayall and the guitar players, you know, that it's also John Mayall himself. And I hope that we do pay that respect going forward, even though we love talking about guitar players because we are guitar players on the show.
Yeah.
And that's yeah, and that's
some
always
of us
going
are
to
more than others.
That's always going to be a feature of our pinpointing some kind of jumping off point for us. 10 out of 10, Brad. Never a skip. She's a cracker.
Right. My Time After a While, it has to be right up there with one of my all-time favorite blues songs. I absolutely adore this song. And it's got that mid-tempo, soulful blues ballad feel, you know what I mean? And it's deep in emotional content. The morning, it's got a real mournful guitar solo, heartfelt vocals, and there's that vocal that you were talking about, Andrew. I mean, I can't agree with you any more than I am. It's got that longing, reflective sort of feel. He's putting that forward in the vocal take as well. I'm very familiar with this song. One of my favorite versions of this song is one Buddy Guy did live. And I think it's at Buddy's Legends Club that I've seen it, and it gives me goosebumps every time I hear it. The way he sings, the way he, pulls his hand into it, and I'm picturing John Mayall doing the exact same thing. He's really giving his vocal 120%. Mick Taylor's emotive bluesy solos are. There's so much feeling and nuance in his playing for an 18-year-old. He's capturing the song's mood with the feel of his playing. Obviously, his guitar playing throughout is so catchy. He's got a lot going on. You can't help but enjoy his playing on this record throughout, and this song is no exception. The bass playing, John LaVie's bass playing is just solid. He's anchoring this song down as deep. He's got a real resonant tone happening. The drums, Keith Harley, it's got that slow, steady rhythm of the dynamics. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Again, John Mayall's heartfelt vocals that really resonates with that blues tradition and is conveying the sense of longing and reflection, the lyrical content. Guys, I gave this 100 out of 10 and never a skip. I love it. Never skip, guys. Simon.
Yeah, I think that this is the in a sense that this carries on from the first track in terms of it has the organ, the horns, the bass, and the drums are that kind of solid bit in the middle that are holding it down. I think that but the horns are starting to come into the mix more. So there's horn swells. There's a sax solo. Lest we forget, there's a sax solo at 2:45 that follows on from the guitar solo that goes off, and the guitar plays over the horns and the organ, and then it goes into the sax solo. Now it's smoky, bluesy sax solo. It's fantastic. Late night evocation, isn't it? Smoky clubs and all of that. And I think that's really interesting because you're starting to broaden out the instrumental palette, aren't you? It's not just going to be the guitar; it's going to be some sax stuff in here, to a different color, different view of the world, and I think that's fantastic. And I did make a note on this as well. I made a note on that. I thought John Mayall was in really good voice on this, particularly, but and that was after the first 3 tracks. So great singing as well, but full sound, horns, with various different sounds. And Mick Taylor does a fantastic job with the guitar solos for sure. But you've got that kind of, later on you've got that organ jamming under the sax solo with the horn section with really no guitar in it at all. It's interesting, isn't it? There's not much what you would call rhythm guitar on this album at all, is there? There's a little bit way in the background, but there's not a huge amount. If the guitar's playing, it's playing a solo. I mean, it maybe is way in the background, but I was struck by the fact how little you could hear it, but unless he was playing the solo, in which case he was right in there. So maybe it's just because of all the instruments and you can't have everything louder than everything else on these the analog recordings. But yeah, great third track, 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip, right up there, and really showcasing the band, showcasing the album, what it's going to be. Fantastic track. Andrew.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah, you can hear the rhythm track, but I think you've kind of answered your question because the horns have such an emphasis on the production as well, so the horns are there as well too. So yeah. I think you're right, Simon. It's definitely an album where the guitars are going to be seen in the solos, but also following the vocals and the choruses and sort of in the verses as well too, and then backed up by the horns, which features on the next song, Snowy Wood. And wow, Brad again and Simon, you've got Mick Taylor sounding fantastic on this track, and then he's backed up on that second verse by those incredible horns. It's just fantastic. I didn't realize actually until I was studying this album for the show, actually how good that sounded with that second verse with the horns. And then, you've got the double stops, Brad, and the vibrato clearly on this track, featuring by Mick Taylor. So you didn't get a lot of that on the previous tracks. Now you're getting those double stops, and which was a feature of the Beano album, wasn't it, with Clapton? And then you had the vibrato on the second album, which was a feature of Peter Green, and you're getting that now on this track here by Mick Taylor. And I love the drums. You guys have been mentioning the drums and the bass, the bass on every song, but I in particular, I like the standout work that Keith has done on the skins on this track. Just adding that different contrast that he has on the previous tracks. Brad, Simon, I've given this a Brad score. It's a fantastic track. I love it, and it's definitely Simon, never a skip. Brad.
Yeah, look, this instrumental piece is it's a highlight, and it shows the band's musical sort of prowess, I guess, to put it in one way. There's that intricate guitar work. It's got the laid back vibe, creating a relaxing sort of mood. Mick Taylor showcasing his skills. Some of his guitar work is really expressive, the way he plays, even when he's playing a melody or when he's playing a riff or he's soloing. There's a lot going on there with his dynamics and feel. He's technically pretty advanced for an 18-year-old, bluesman. He's got a lot going on with his dynamics and feel. There's a lot of emotional depth in the way he's playing. About 1 minute 30 into the track, and if you go back and listen to that point later on, it's fantastic. It's incredible. And I've mentioned here, fantastic guitar tone. It's I love his guitar tone on this track. Some great keyboard playing, but the bass playing as well, perfect. There's a lot of depth and texture to what he's doing. It's supporting that groove of the drums, just keeping that rhythm down there. What else have I got without sort of doubling up on everyone else here? I put just 10 out of 10, never a skip, guys. It's a great song, great instrumental. Simon.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about this is that clearly it's a kind of Mick Taylor sort of showcase, but the other instrument really is the horns. When they come in, they riff alternating with the guitar, then they play a section, the guitar plays a section, so that I feel like the horns are right in there and contributing to the color of the song, and it's not just a straightforward hideaway type guitar showcase. There's more going on in it. The organ is clearly the rhythm instrument in this, but with the bass and drums, and but the way the horns are kind of just starting to interact with the guitar and do stuff against the guitar, I think is interesting. Not stuff they've really done before. So I think that makes this stand out, I think, as a track. And I think that, as I say, it's not just an instrumental of a great guitar player doing a great guitar solo. But it has more than that. It's more color, more dynamic than that. And I think that makes it a 10 out of 10 for me as well. And I think that's but I think that extra set of dynamics and color really, really contribute to the track. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip.
Awesome.
Andrew.
Cool. And people are happy to see Helene back in the chat. So are we, Helene, and hope your health gets better. That's all we can wish for. We hope that people get better and get healthy. Thank you.
Yeah, 100%.
Next track, boys, is Man of Stone, another cover by Eddie Kirkland. Simon, it's a cool song. It has all the elements that we've been talking about on this album. It's got the harp, which we love. It's got the sax solo, well, the sax players, and that call and response, which is a key ingredient to a blues tune. Does the job fine for me, Brad. 8 out of 10, and never a skip.
Yeah, it's I'll put here. Where are we? Sorry, I got sidetracked with the chat there. I was just about to type something out and sidetracked. So we're up to Man of Stone. I'll put here powerful driving blues track. Some great harp playing there. Mick Taylor's powerful guitar presence on this song. It brings a lot of intensity and energy to the song. I'll put electrifying slide playing as well. Strong bass playing drives the song. I put drumming energetic, precise. The drumming is right in the pocket. And I put John Mayall's robust, commanding vocals, match the song's intensity. I gave it an 8 out of 10, guys, and never a skip. Simon.
Yeah, I think it has a bit of singing at the beginning and a bit of singing at the end.
Yeah,
but the showcase is really the harp, slide, acoustic, and that sax solo really. And as Andrew said, I think the interesting bit about the call and response, it's the harp and the sax doing the call and response, not the guitar and the vocals, which is normally what is happening. Nothing more to add than that really. 8 out of 10 from me. Never a skip, but nice interlude from what's gone before. Bit of a contrast. Andrew.
Thank you, guys. Albert, you mentioned earlier in the chat, that John Mayall, for a long period in the 70s, was a standalone artist. And this track, Tears in My Eyes, is the one track that should set him aside, Simon, in the British canon of songwriters. It's a John Mayall song. I can't say enough about this song. I love all the versions. The year that this album was recorded and the year before, there's about 3 or 4 versions of this song live where Peter Green is playing guitar, Brad, on this track. And now we get Mick Taylor, offering his ingredient, Simon, to this track, on his instrument on this track. It's just fantastic. I love it. I love all versions of this, and I encourage you, please, to go and check them out. I know this is a Mick Taylor album as far as the guitar playing is concerned, Brad, but I have to mention the other guy that was doing the chops before this guy, only a couple of months beforehand, Simon. So the fact that Mick Taylor at 18 picked this up, Brad, and went with it after hearing, he would have been at those gigs. He would have heard those a lot of these songs played live with these other guitar players. So again, he's offering his interpretation, which is something that we love. And this is the first time, Simon, where John McVie is playing some runs. He's not just playing, the chords, behind the track, with his bass. He's actually playing runs on this, so it's fantastic. I have to give this a Brad score. I just think it's phenomenal. And John Mayall wrote this song. It's just it's just incredible, Brad.
Yeah, it's a great song. It's Tears in My Eyes. I mean, it's got that soulful, melancholic sort of blues feel, emotive guitar solos, expressive vocals that convey that sort of deep sadness and longing. Mick Taylor delivers, some really deep emotive sort of solos there. The feel, he's enhancing the song's mood with his feel. It's amazing, actually. John McVie's bass playing is steady. Like you said, Andrew, there's a lot going on with the bass there. It's supportive to the song as well. Keith's drumming. It's like a soft backdrop I'm going to put to this song, allowing the song's emotion to take center stage. And John Mayall's expressive vocals, you know, there's that feeling of sadness in his vocal, the way he does execute the vocal. I have to agree with you, Andrew. It's a phenomenal track. I gave it 10 out of 10 and never a skip. Simon.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean it's the first end of side one. It's the first slow blues, 6/8. 6/8 time, 3/4 cat waltz time, with that organ and guitar intro, and again the horns, and having the call and response with the horns and the guitar, just kind of just to change that up a bit and make that slightly different to the norm. As you've said, steady bass playing and drums, just holding that rhythm down, but it's starting to just, John McPhee starting to open it up a bit with the things, and some really nice guitar solo from Mick Taylor over the horns, over that full sound, the horns, the organ, the bass, and the drums, and also fantastically well recorded. I think that he's got a fantastic sound on this record, doesn't he? That the Les Paul into I presume it's into a blues breaker, some sort of Marshall amp. That seems to be what he played, but he's made a sound his own, and doesn't sound like Peter Green or Eric, indeed, and makes it his own. So great closer to side one. 10 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. Smoky slow.
Thanks, Simon. I just want to raise a point here that Albert's made in the chat, and I've never thought of this, and this is one of the reasons why we love doing this.
Yeah.
The first album we had Huey Flint on
Huey
drums.
Flint.
Second album, Aisley Dunbar on drums, and on this album, Brad, you've got Keith Hartley on drums. So very, very interesting point. I've never thought of that before.
A counterpoint to the guitars. 3 different guitarists, 3 different drummers. Throw that in, but and they all went on to do great other things afterwards, as well. So I mean, it's you could make a case that he's done the same thing for drummers as he did for guitarists.
Good point.
A really good point, Albert. Really good point for that. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for that. So we're going to play. We're going to show some pics now, boys.
Yeah, show some photos.
Right, give me a second, guys. Okie dokie. Right. Okay. So there's John sitting down, and look at that young fellow.
Yeah.
Young Taylor. Apparently, Mick Taylor went up to him when he was playing in a club and said, "Do you think I could sit in?" John Mayall said, "All right then."
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah, amazing that is. Yeah. Well, amazing that you'd have the confidence to go up and ask. Age 18, I'm sure I wouldn't have done. And amazing that some with John Mayall's stature would go, "Yeah, all right then." Fantastic, without really knowing.
Look at that, Les Paul.
Yeah, there's Mick there with the Blues Breakers. So as we like to do, folks, we like to pick or get photos that near the album's era. So these are from 67 and a couple are going to be from 68. So here's an interesting pic that I found. So you've got in the back there John playing guitar, and you've got next to him Andy Fraser, Simon. So Andy Fraser joined the Blues Breakers pretty much after this album was completed. Keith Hartley on drums. You've got
aged about 14 something.
Yeah, 15 or something like that. Yeah, 14, 15. Another young guy, and there's Mick Taylor there on guitars. So another great guy. So Andy Fraser, if you don't know, went on to be a founder member of a band called Free, who we've featured a few times, Brad, on this channel already.
Yeah, and wrote a little-known song called "All Right Now."
Oh yeah.
So this is
Ace.
immediately after the album was released, and there's Mick there with his SG next to that Marshall. So he's playing Marshalls there, Brad.
Yep.
And you've got Andy Fraser again. He didn't play bass on this album, folks. If you are confused, I'm sorry about that. But Andy Fraser on bass, who we were just talking about, and John there with the long hair, playing the guitar as well. John from the same gig.
Cool hairdo.
There's a close-up of Andy Fraser. I had to throw him in there, guys. Sorry.
That's all right.
This is our mate John from the same era, 67, playing his precision bass.
Yeah. Have you look at the poster in the background, guys? Jimi Hendrix Experience.
Experience, yeah, Savoy Brown.
Savoy Brown,
Jeff
yeah.
Beck Group. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jeff Beck Group.
Man,
Phenomenal, eh, bro?
what a time! What an era! Wow.
19th
that's
of
from
May.
So that's 68. Just before he's joining that little band that we mentioned from London, but he's there with the Blues Breakers. So in 68.
Yeah.
Who's that?
That's a young boy. That's a very young man.
Mick Taylor, yeah.
That's Mick.
It's a cool haircut, actually.
Mick again.
Yep.
From 67. Looking pretty cool. Okay, so we've mentioned, and as Brad has pointed out, guys, there's a Les Paul there that Mick is playing. So that Les Paul is this one here, which featured with a guy called, what's his name? What's that guy's name?
Keith Richards, somebody.
Oh, yeah.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
From some band called the Rolling Stones.
Yeah. That's Keith playing a Les Paul, a 58 Les Paul, sorry, a 59 Les Paul with a Bixby. And I think that's on the Ed Sullivan Show, Simon. So that's probably one of the first times a lot of people got to see this guitar. And here's the guitar a couple of years ago. This is a guitar broker. This is the guy that apparently brokered the Greenie guitar. But that's the same guitar that Mick Taylor played, and Mick Taylor got this guitar because Ian, who's the keyboardist in the Rolling Stones?
Ian Stewart.
Ian Stewart sold it. Ian and to Mick Taylor, and Mick Taylor bought it, and here's Mick Taylor playing the same guitar, who brings that same guitar back to Keith Richards when he joins the Rolling Stones, Brad.
Yeah. I'm just wondering whether I should put a Bigsby on the back of that.
Yeah. You know Brad, you know the default answer to any questions like that is yes. Okay. So you've got to do it.
I've thought about it often. I'd love to put one on mine. I've thought about it, bro.
It would look good on this one too, because it's got that sort of nice straight flame.
Yes.
Nice Bigsby on there. You know, give you that sort of Mick Taylor feel. You know.
Stop that now. Stop it now.
I'll probably
balls that were designed for Bigsby's.
I'll upset a lot of people putting a Bigsby on this. Don't worry.
And then obviously Mick Taylor goes and plays that Les Paul right through his career with the Rolling Stones. There's lots of shots of him playing that Les Paul in the Stones. So it kind of goes full circle, Simon, comes back into the Rolling Stones. But Mick Taylor talks about it. You know, he had to get one. There was no doubt, Brad. There was no doubt in his mind. He'd played some of those English guitars and some of the quote-unquote European guitars that were around and that were freely available, Simon, at the time, but just didn't have the sound that he was hearing Clapton and Peter Green play. So it was the case closed. Had to get a Les Paul.
That's why you have to get one.
Can't argue with them. Can't argue with him. That's what he said.
No, go spend the money.
So thank you guys for letting me flick up some picks.
Cool picks.
A lot of people saying
Great.
Tears of My Eyes, Never a Skip from Tony. Man of Stone, Ellen has given it 8.5, and Albert St. John's very good bottleneck player. Yes, he was. Often reminds me of Robert Nighthawk, exactly. And I haven't a clue if John played bottle. I'm going to assume he probably played it in open tuning. I'm going to assume. I'm going to make that assumption that John was probably, because he was musically proficient, so he would have known. And a lot of those guys, I'm going to say maybe.
I think that's right. If you're musically proficient, it helps you to, but not on virtuoso. Then it's going to help you to play in an open tuning, isn't it? It's just it's going to be a bit easier.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the sensible idea. I'd certainly be playing anything like that in open tuning. Yeah, for sure.
Death of JB Lenoir is the next track, Simon.
It is not. Excuse me, Mr. Walter. It's not the next track. Driving Sideways is.
I can't read my own notes. Sorry. Driving Sideways.
Sorry for hauling you back there. Whoa.
yeah. Thank you.
Whoa.
Driving Sideways. Always reminded me of that. Yardbird song. Over, under.
Sideways down.
Sideways down. Yeah. Kind of. Yeah. Every time I sort of heard or thought of this song, it reminded me of that. But one thing I really noticed about this track, Simon, is Mick's guitar is really loud on this track. I've listened to it on vinyl. I listened to it on Spotify and CD. So they've really turned up, and I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say about that. But I've noticed the volume is really, really high on this, and that's not a criticism. It's just an observation. I like it. I'm kind of wishing, maybe that the previous side could have pumped up the volume a little bit more. I'm going to have to back up what you guys said too, a little bit earlier. The fluidity of the notes that Mick Taylor has is a feature on this track. If you were kind of picking it up on the first side, you definitely got it nailed down on this track, Brad. He's not playing those aggressive chops that Clapton was doing, on the first album, and a little bit subtle compared to what Green was doing. This was, in my mind, when I hear this track, I'm hearing, this is the Mick Taylor that I know. This is the Mick Taylor that he jumps off and goes on and does other things with. This is the track for me. I love the keyboard shuffle, Simon, which adds that extra dimension to it. The guitar playing on this track is just phenomenal. I'm giving this a 10 out of 10, and it's a signpost of where, in particular, Mick Taylor goes as a musician, Brad.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Andrew. I think, the feel of the song, it's upbeat. It's got that energetic sort of lively rhythm, that dynamic guitar work, and spirited guitar playing from a young guy, Mick Taylor. I mean, I know we've sort of said it a few times, but it still astounds me that he's such a young guy. He's got this really old bluesman feel to his playing. And the other thing that blows me away is that they recorded this song, this whole album, in 10 hours, was it, including mixing? I mean, this is obviously just they've gone in and it's just do the best you can, play and get through the song without sort of mucking up too much. And this is what we're hearing. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Some fantastic guitar playing. Obviously, not too much thought in it. It's just playing, just putting your head back and playing. And that's what Mick's done for a young fella at this point in his career. What an amazing player. The bass playing obviously adds to the track. Drums, got that syncopated feel a little bit. It's got the high energy thing going and propelling the song, sort of without doubling up too much on what you've already said, Andrew. I've given it a 10 out of 10 as well. I think it's a great song, great instrumental, and a great way to start side two. Simon.
Cool.
Yeah, it's the by now obligatory Freddie King instrumental, isn't it? Yeah, a la Hideaway. But I don't know whether that's for sure, but I don't know whether it's a conscious thing to have have an instrumental,
Yes, it is.
thing like that. But it probably is, yeah. But I agree. I think that what makes it is the fantastic lead. You've talked about Mick Taylor's lead playing, which is great, and it's got that, as I say, it's kind of smoother soaring. But I mean, to me, it's kind of, I don't know. I kind of felt that his playing was a sort of as the way that blues rock guitar like this went and was. Clearly, it harks back to the real bluesmen, but it has a kind of futuristic bit in. I hear a kind of 70s, that fluidity and that sound is a bit as having a kind of 70s vibe to it. When a lot more players were playing in these styles and things. So I hear kind of sound of the future in it. I don't know who's the only person doing it, but yes, I feel there's something of the future in his playing as well as the past. But, so great, but I think the horns, the horn riff under the lead guitar at the beginning is gives it real color. It's got that, and as you said, Andrew, that boogie woogie piano coming in halfway through, piano solo, and then you've got the horns, haven't you? So it's not a it's a kind of, it's almost a kind of band, going around the band and the band all playing a bit of a solo kind of thing. You've got a guitar solo, piano solo, you've got the horns, and you've got a guitar solo to end and things, which is fantastic. So I think it's a great way to open it. As I say, I clearly think there's a bit of a theme here with the Freddie King instrumental, but never a bad thing. 10 out of 10 for me, and never a skip. It's great stuff. Andrew.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Always appreciate your views. And just give me 2 seconds. I'm just trying to do something here. Is that going to work?
Yeah.
I'll have to wait until you got one of you guys. So yeah, Driving Sideways, a Freddie King solo. You're right, Tony. Exactly. And as we've discussed, one of the formulas that John followed through from his previous other albums, that worked, and why not? The guitar, the blues guitar, was becoming a solid and a really important instrument in 66, 67, Brad, so we've got to remember that. And for John to be successful as a musician and as a earner, he had a good track record to follow, Simon. So no one can deny that, because it worked. And we're talking about this album now 50 odd years later.
Yeah.
Getting on by 60.
Yeah, time flies. Yeah, 6. Yeah. Holy cow. The death of JB Lenoir. So again, folks, if you listen to the lyrics, it's another John Mayall song, and it's a homage to one of his mentors that he gives to us. And I think it's worth pointing out, in 1966-67, a lot of people wouldn't have known who this guy was, Simon. So for John to be talking about this guy, Brad, was a real deep dive.
Yeah.
A real deep dive for a lot of people. And again, you know, when you read some of the articles and what other band members have to say, you know, just the song itself gave 16, 17, 18-year-olds all around the world, but certainly in the UK, okay, we have to go and check out this guy. So, you know, they were checking out this reference that John Mayall was talking about. So I think it's a point where we have to sort of, you know, remember that John Mayall was certainly not scared to sort of open the door backwards, Simon, which is what a lot of these guys were doing, weren't they? You know, I love it.
Yeah.
I love the fact that they were doing it and they weren't hiding it.
Well, it's what's really interesting, I think, is that you know that, and we know this, that you know that he's because John Mayall's father was a musician, local musician, and he had quite an extensive blues record collection, which John kind of inherited. So when Eric Clapton joined, you know, he spent 6 months living with John Mayall and his wife, and going through his record collection. You know, so clearly John even then was a bit of a historian, bit of a you know collector, and collected these things, and was able to look back and look forward at the same time, kind of thing, and would definitely have known who JB Lenoir was, and probably had some records by him. So you know,
Definitely.
it's interesting you know that comes into play when he's putting these albums together and doing, you know, he's got all that background and all that material that he can pick on to you know, to choose songs from. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's all good. The song features a harp solo, and it's again followed by that Stax kind of cool sax solo. I love the song, Brad. You know, it's definitely got a role and a position on this album. I love the fact that it's a signpost again, going back to blues history. I give this 8 out of 10, Brad, and it's never a skip.
We're all pretty similar on rankings this week, which is, you know, it's. I guess that's a strength of the album. You know what I mean? There's no way of going either way. You're going to rank it fairly similar because it's a very strong record.
Yep.
The death of JB Lenoir. Is that how you pronounce it, guys? Lenoir?
It is how you pronounce it. Yeah, it is pronounced Lenoir, not Lenoir, but Lenoir, I think.
Lenoir. I don't look. That's how I pronounce it.
I looked it up, and it says, you know, that the mispronunciation is actually Lenoir, not Lenoir.
Lenoir, yeah. It's a
Well
you
done.
know reflective tribute to one of his heroes, JB Lenoir, and the song's got that somber, you know, evocative sort of vocal with a heartfelt homage to him. The guitar plays with a mournful, reflective tone as well. And I think it's very tasteful, emotional solos. There is a sax in there as well, isn't there, guys? I've been forgetting to mention a lot of the brass and things like that, but the sax in there, yes. It's not that I don't like it. It's just my notes. I just keep forgetting to bring it up out of my notes, because if anyone could see my notes, how I'm scrambled with my notes when it comes to songs, and I use it just as a point form, so I don't, you know, read it. Basically, I try to elaborate on it, and the bass playing I put there, it's supportive. It's like a backdrop to the song, the way he's playing bass on there. The drumming is restrained. You know, it's got a lot of respect. It's not overpowering. And John's somber sort of vocal tribute, I guess, is heartfelt. It's sincere. There's a lot of, it's conveying a sense of loss maybe in his vocal, the way he's singing it. I think he's done an amazing job on it. I too gave it an 8 out of 10, and never a skip, guys. Simon.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tribute to JB Lenoir died in April '67, so it's a tribute to him. Recently deceased. You know, only a few months later they're recording this album. So it's definitely about that. one of his clearly one of his heroes, one of Mayall's heroes, and hence that kind of very impassioned vocals, isn't it? I mean, I think particularly impassioned vocals on this from Mayall, one of his own songs, and as you said, kind of, and I think we should make the point, Brad, that actually we've mentioned the horns, so you don't have to, kind of thing. I always feel like I never worry about not mentioning everything, because I know that one of you guys will pick up, and if one of us has mentioned it, then it's it's in the mix, and I never worry about those things.
Great point.
Getting it all. I think it's probably better not to get it all, so you leave space for somebody else a bit, So
It is true.
so I don't worry about that. You've mentioned the bass and the drums a lot when I haven't mentioned them very much, but I'm very comfortable with that. That's how we work as one. And
Yeah, true. That is true.
It's worth saying. I think, oh, he hasn't mentioned them. It's like, well, Brad's mentioned them a lot. It's fine, I could say it all over again, but there's no point. But so I think that various solos on this, sax solo, harp solo, and that nice guitar figure under the solo towards the fade out at the end. Things. I think because of its impassioned vocals and subject matter, and the belief genre, I gave it a 9 out of 10, but never a skip.
Awesome.
Cool, Andrew.
Crappy gives it 10 out of 10. And John Mayall sang a lot like JB. Yeah, good point. Ellen's given Driving Sideways, great beat, loves the guitar, and she's given it 10 out of 10 too. So, fantastic. The next track, boys, is I Can't Quit You, Baby.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You might have heard it before.
Yeah. What a song. What a great song. Great versions of the song, but we're talking about this version, folks. And this is just where Mick Taylor is just out of control on this track. His guitar work, his guitar tone is just incredible. The solo on this track is definitely one of the standouts on the album for me, Brad and Simon. And the vibrato, I've mentioned it before. There's a couple of tracks, or one track in particular, where he has double stops and vibrato, but this is where he features the vibrato. And again, these British guys, I hate to say it, but there was something in the water in 66, 67, 68. You had Paul Kossoff doing the same thing, Brad. It's just Danny Kerwin, who we talk about often, and this is Mick Taylor again doing Mick Taylor's version of this great stuff. It's just a phenomenal track. If you haven't heard it, this is definitely one track on the album. It's definitely a standout for me. This is a huge score, Brad.
Huge score, hey.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely intrigued to hear what you guys have to say about this track, Brad.
I Can't Quit You, Baby. I guess this song stems back to Led Zeppelin for me, being a Led Zeppelin fan before. I heard the Willie Dixon version and all the other versions around. So I pretty much, for good or for bad or for worse, I do compare a little bit. I try not to with anything to any other band, but the Zeppelin versions, there's two versions of it that Zeppelin did. I find it hard to not hear the Zeppelin versions in my head when I'm listening to it, but I did put them aside on ice, and I thought, I'm going to give this song the credit that it deserves. Step away from the bottom drumming and the Jimmy Page, the John Paul Jones and the Robert Plant. Just put that aside and really give this song a go. And wow, what a version of the song. In fact, it's probably this week, it's close, one of my close favorite versions of this song now. It's passionate, intense. It's filled with emotion. It's got depth that the power. I'm going to say powerful guitar playing in this song, guys. Blues power, by the way. I'm not talking powerful as in a metal. Blues power. The vocals, the essence of the song, they really catch it really well. It's a fantastic version. Mick Taylor's solos are intense. They're passionate. I'm guessing this is all live. You know what I mean? It's got that feel about it. He's playing. He's showing a bit of virtuosity in this song. He's soaring. Mick Taylor is. There's some emotive guitar lines in there. Beautiful playing. The bass playing, John Mayall. It's melodic. There's depth. Foundational. Blues foundational. The drums. Keith is just keeping that beat down like it's like in the pocket, and adds to the song's depth. And John Mayall, in powerful vocals I put there. He's conveying that deep emotion through it, and he's keeping it traditional to the blues, and I love that. And I could go on for hours about it, but I've listened to this song the most. I mean, I've listened to the album quite a bit this week, as we do when we're ranking, but I'd go through the album and then I'd go back to listen to this song again. Cheating. 100 out of 10 and never a skip, guys. Simon.
Yes, I think the first thing to say is it's not like the Zeppelin or the Beck versions. It's not, it's much more in the style of the Willie Dixon versions, that Chicago blues kind of thing. That
Yes.
rather than their more futuristic, I might say, or British rock thinking that thing. I think that that, as you say, I think one of the really cool things about, and I think this must be quite an early time, is the fact that in the guitar solos, he plays with the feedback. He actually, he allows the guitar to feedback in a kind of controlled manner. And I was kind of trying to think about what other records I could think of which had that kind of controlled feedback thing. I'm sure there are others, but I couldn't think of any off the top of my head. So I thought that was really good, and I think that that's a really I love that kind of where it just goes and it's clearly controlled. Oh, what was that? Is that you, Ray? You lighting a match or something?
Something just popped up in a message and I opened it by accident.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's all right. It didn't play. You'll be pleased to know. So that's all right. So
I hope that didn't ruin your descriptions there, Simon. Sorry about that.
No. Just surprising.
Was me too. Don't worry. It actually scared me.
Yeah. What's that? But I think that the piano, horns, bass does that kind of that very big kind of basic things, kind of quite Chicago based. But as people have said, with the horns particularly, that's kind of. I mean, some of it must hark back to BB King live at the Regal, which has classic horns on it and stuff. But fantastic guitar solos, as you said, Brad. Bluesy, passionate guitar solos. I love the nicely controlled feedback and things, and I think that and as I say, it's even though it's in a slightly more traditional manner than Zepp and Co. It's definitely a 10 out of 10 and never a skip. It's a great version of it. Absolutely, it's a great version of it. And I think that clearly at this time, people may not, a lot of people wouldn't have heard the Willie Dixon version, those early blues versions. They wouldn't have heard them. So, doing it like this is completely in keeping with John Mayall as the keeper of the blues flame, and in keeping with what he was doing on these albums, really. Just taking those Freddie King, whoever it is, and bringing them to a wider public in the UK. And clearly that's part of the agenda here, is to bring these songs, classic songs, maybe not so classics, to a wider audience in the UK. So, 10 out of 10 for me, and never a skip. Great version. Andrew.
Thanks, guys.
On social media.
I'm glad, Brad, that you mentioned that. I didn't want to sort of jump in with these other versions. I was hoping that I knew that you guys would talk about at least Led Zeppelin's version. when I first became aware of this album and I heard this, I kind of thought, yeah, this would be more of the version that was resembling kind of the original version, because we all knew that Led Zeppelin, didn't they, Simon? They did Led Zeppelin things to songs, and yeah, you know,
Led
and
Zeppelinized.
yeah, and so I just have to. I don't want to do a conclusion, guys, but I just want to back up the point though that you guys have made. Thank you. That when I heard this and became aware of it, I said, yeah, this has a role to play in that whole British legacy. And you can take these kind of songs, can't you, Brad and Simon? And you can just do a show if you want. You can say to people, well, look, listen to this version. This is John Mayall's version. And then you could go and we could do a show and then listen to Beck's version and then listen to what Led Zeppelin did and then go back and listen to the original version. You know what? You know, and you know, all the ingredients are there. It's just fantastic. So I kind of like that that kind of self discovery that we had in 1994 or 95, Brad. It's like,
Yeah. I know you don't want to, you know, conclude on everything, but I do encourage people to go and compare versions of songs. You know, when you're listening to something and it resonates with you, and there's multiple versions by different artists, it's great to investigate and go in with an open mind and an open heart and have a listen. Anyway.
Oh, definitely. 100%. Thank you, guys. Next track is Streamline. Is that correct? Am I reading my notes right?
Yeah.
Cool song. Cool song, guys. It's you know, it's a cool song. It's always going to be a little bit difficult, isn't it, when you've identified something that's a huge score. And I think this is definitely the track to put after the track that we've just spoken about. You got nice tone on the Hammond organ, which is always a lovely feature that John Mayall does. And, you know, we've spoken about that a couple of times, and on his previous albums, you know, he's a master of that instrument. And goes on in the 70s and does some other stuff with it as well, you know. And, you know, in the 80s and 90s, he's playing keyboards well, and, you know, just a phenomenal keyboardist. You know, I'll never skip the song, Brad. It's a 7 out of 10 for me. It's just a good song to follow a cracker.
Yeah, it's hard to follow a song like that, Andrew. You know what I mean? It really is on an album, and it goes back to a lot of what Simon likes to do when he talks about the ebb and flow in an album. And I think it's good to have some, you know, if you have a big song and then you have a song after it that's not trying to compete with it, which is good. And I think this track in particular, Streamline, it's streamlined.
Hey,
sort of did that. I think the track's really great. There's some fluid guitar work there and lively sort of drumming. Nick Taylor's, like I said, fluid, effortless guitar work on this song. John McVie's bass, you know, is really driving on it. He's following that and propelling that groove that Keith's putting on the drums there. John Mayall's spirited vocal gives the track a little bit of excitement and movement as well. I've given it an 8 out of 10, guys, and never a skip. Simon.
Yeah, I think as Andrew says, it suffers a bit by comparison. You know, it's in the shadow of a fantastic version of a fantastic song. So, but nevertheless, it's kind of got, you know, still got the, you know, it's got different stuff going on. Starts off with the bass drums and the organ is very clearly the instrument with you know, the horn riffs under the singing that are really cool. You know, bringing it out in that kind of, as you said, that kind of Stax way, that kind of soul is kind of Stax salting, which is really cool, and I hadn't picked up on. So I'm now stealing that and making it my own. Some nice funky guitar, and, you know, got a sax solo again. You know, you're moving back to the sax solo bit with the guitar, and then an organ solo. You know, with the, you know, with, you've got kind of the organ in the middle, the guitar on the left, and the horns on the right, kind of thing. Anyway, yes, and kind of, which is the way that this album is set up. yeah, it suffers a bit. I gave it 7.5 out of 10. I wouldn't skip it, but certainly it's certainly a lighter song than you know, and it's only 3 minutes, so it's fine. Andrew.
We're going to be a show full of funny little puns today because Brad said the song Streamline's about a train, and Me and My Woman puts the album back on track.
Yeah.
You got it. Good boy. Good on you. Just testing. We're back on track, folks. With this track. I've mentioned before there's been a couple of songs where Mick V, the master bass player, and we have to call him a master bass player because he's played with, as we've pointed out already on this track by Albert in particular, with some of the greatest drummers in the British scene, and certainly, obviously, Brad and Simon with some of the greatest guitar players in a band by one of the greatest British band leaders, John Mayall. So we're getting Mick V. Go and check out this if you're a bass player. You don't get a lot of Mick V bass runs around this era. And the British bass players weren't kind of doing that kind of stuff, Simon. They were just playing those chords, which is really, really important. But if you go and check some of the live stuff out, they were. He was. They were doing something, Brad, completely different when they're live. John McVie did bass solos. So the live set was, a little bit different too. Clearly, the album that we're getting, but it wasn't until probably I would say McCartney came, in the later years with the Beatles, where the bass became, the bassist became prominent. Simon, does that make sense? As a as a musician, and then we see John McVie do that, Brad, don't we, in the 70s with Fleetwood Mac, as some of the greatest bass riffs, were on the Rumours album. But you go and check out, if you want an early version of what John McVie was playing in between his bevies, this is a good example of it. Because he liked his bevies.
His bevies.
And you've got a delicate Mick Taylor, Brad, on guitar on this track, with those guitar fills, so he's, this is Mick Taylor sort of pulling it in a bit. And I'm going to pinch a word that you often like to use when you're describing a solo, Brad, a tasty guitar solo. That, again, is a little bit different from the other solos that he's done on this album. So we're getting that contrast that the Rock Professor demands that we have on albums.
I demand. Contra.
Great track. Not quite a 10 out of 10, Brad. But I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Never a skip, brother.
Yeah, I agree. Me and My Woman. I think it's got that real. It's got a soulfully blues, smooth, laid-back vibe going on. The song's got, expressive vocals, warm guitar playing. I put here. There's like an intimacy sort of and connection feel going on there within the song, and they're portraying it obviously on their instruments and vocally. Backing up what you're saying about Mick Taylor, he's playing. I'll put here relaxed, soulful, warm, melodic, and he's playing intimately just to enhance the song's feel. I've put John McVie's bass is warm, supportive. It's got that harmonious sort of foundation. Keith Hartley's drumming, he's it's a little bit more relaxed, just keeping it smooth, laid back. John Mayall's smooth, expressive vocals, and Mick Taylor, his solo is tasty. 9 out of 10, guys. Never a skip. I'll give it over to you, Simon.
Yeah, it's kind of kind of slow blues. This one, isn't it? Kind of getting back into the groove, as Andrew said, of some really tasteful soloing by Mick Taylor over that rhythm, bass drums and the horns, kind of in unison kind of thing. Organ kind of mixed down as well, so it's in the background. So
Yep.
but really for me, this is about about Mick Taylor's. He's got that thick, smooth sound, doesn't he? Does sound particularly great on this, and and a really nice groove. I'll give it 8 out of 10. Never a skip. But, yeah.
Awesome.
Yes. Good second to last track.
Yeah.
Shock horror probe.
Yeah.
Check up on my baby. That's the next track?
Yes.
It
Checking
is.
up.
Yeah. Last one.
Yes.
Checking up on my baby. Brad and Simon, this is clearly a John Mayall showpiece, isn't it? It's definitely a piece where Matt. Hey Matt, good to see you. Have you been in our chat before, Matt? If you have, I apologise if we don't recognise you, but thank you for jumping in. And yes, besides talking about music, we play. So, some better than others. Where are we? John Mayall. Check up on my baby.
Yeah.
Guys, you got John on harp. Great vocals by John. It's a showpiece for John. Nothing really on this track, Brad and Simon, is... Just close the door. Is anything... There's nothing out of the mould that we've not already listened to on this album. I kind of... If there is one criticism... I've given this an 8 out of 10, and I've got to be careful what I say because I know this is a tribute show too. But it's definitely in the mould of John Mayall, and I'm gonna listen to what you guys have to say before I make any other points. But Brad, it's 8 out of 10, and it's never a skip though.
Yeah, checking up on my baby. A sharp, bluesy number. It's got a gritty edge. I'll put here Mick Taylor's guitar work is sharp, bluesy. It's a little bit more of a bitey tone on this one. It still sounds great though. I'll put great harp playing, gritty vocals. Obviously the bass and the drums are right in the pocket. Again, I'm where you are with this one, Andrew, and I also ranked it 8 out of 10. It's not the album's biggest song by any means. It's a good enough song to close the album with, but that's where it is for me. 8 out of 10, never a skip. Simon.
So it's a solid album. Well, let's wait for the Rock Professor to offer his comments. Rock Professor.
It's a solid closure, isn't it? I mean, John Mayall makes some funny remark at the beginning. You guys have better got your technical stuff sorted out because I'm only doing it once.
Once through.
Well, you kind of get a feel from that actually it's something of an afterthought. I've got this. Yeah, all right. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it once through as a run through. But I'm not going to spend hours on it, kind of thing. So I think I take from that that it is viewed by them as being one of the lesser ones, which is fine. It's kind of
good point.
I think that I take my lead from what they say, what John Mayall says about it, really, and clearly, it's not one of the major songs, so he'll do it once and he'll run it through and then see what we've got, but that'll be fine, kind of thing. And as you said, it is pretty much it's a showcase for John to play his, do his harp stuff and sing, isn't it? As a pretty straightforward stuff. There's no horns on it, I could tell particularly. It might be way back in the back, but not really any horns on it. So it's kind of I can tell from that, it's just 5 people right, let's count it off and let's play it kind of thing, and and see what we get. And I think that it's that you can tell that it's the last track on the last side kind of thing.
Yeah.
That I don't want to say it's a bit of an afterthought, but I think it's one of the lesser tracks on the album. I gave it 7.5 out of 10, but I wouldn't skip it. It's fine, It's but I don't, I think once you've done, I Can't Quit You, Babe. This is a step down from that for sure. I feel. Being told off
Yeah.
now by everyone in the chat,
No, no,
but
no,
that's
that's
my
all good.
feeling about it.
Yeah,
But
it's all good. Tony gives it a 10, 10 plus 10. It's and that's a good point. Again, it's another cover. It's not an original. It's a Sonny Boy Williamson song. So if you are listening to it on Spotify, it gives you the song list and who's the author, but also on the album and the CD, Brad, it gives you the original writers of the song. So again, that's another gateway back to, isn't it, Simon, that young people would have been reading in 1967 of the album. And indeed, they talk about that on the words on the back of this album. I thought maybe I might start doing videos of reading the backs of some of these albums for people for a reference point for people to go and check out what they're actually saying about this album on there. It's a bit of a blues history lesson, Brad, in 4 paragraphs.
Yes.
Which is important for the time. But getting back to what you guys have said, yeah, we've done this before. It's not a skip by any of us. We just haven't ranked it as high as Tony has. But there's nothing wrong with an album having a solid closer, Simon.
No, it's fine. Yeah. I think that in some way it kind of suffers from what's gone before, because what's gone before is so good, that you find this a bit with albums, don't you? That you've got 10 fantastic tracks, and then you've got a couple that are fine, but you're not quite, so you make a 12-track album because that's what you do, and people put stuff out rather than not put it out. But I, I'd be quite happy. I'm one of, me, I'm one of those people that doesn't believe as though, that filling things up just because you've got 70 minutes on a CD doesn't mean you should fill it up with 70 minutes. 10 tracks is fine. There's lots of classic albums that are, 35 minutes long. They don't suffer for being 35 minutes long. It's fine.
And we've ranked a hell of a lot of them. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks, guys. And in particular, I want to say thank you to everybody again in the chat for their awesome comments and contributions.
Yeah.
And Matt, yeah, thank you. Yeah, we don't play on this channel because YouTube's one of those funny things. If we play music, you get copyrighted. So we're a talking about music channel.
Yeah, unfortunately, Matt. Yes, playing is not really something we're able to do. We can't play ourselves, and we can't play. We don't have the technology to play ourselves. I don't have an interface of any description, so kind of, we're not in a position to play ourselves, and we're not in a position to play the tracks either, which is sad, really, because we should be able to play the tracks, then talk about them, and bring out examples of what we mean in tracks. That would be fantastic. That, as far as I'm concerned. But
I've been asked a few times. Yeah, I've been asked a few times about that. If we could play a little sample of the song before we give the rankings, and I go, sorry, can do. And
we tried that.
I think also you would find, even though StreamYard seems to be okay, at times it can lag a tiny bit, so it would be out of time a little bit here and there. Even if it's a millisecond out of time, it might make it sound horrible. And we have, done guitar sampling and stuff, and the tone tip, tech and tone tip thing and all that. It never comes out sounding through StreamYard how it's meant to sound, or how it sounds in the room. So it's just that compression, and it locks up, and yeah, there's something funny that goes on about that, playing guitar and things through StreamYard, unfortunately.
It's doable. I mean, the guys on the 08 12 thing, what's it called, that they do on a Sunday night. You know, they all have a backing track and they all jam to it and stuff. U812. Oh, U812. That's it there. And you know, Ryan and you know, they seem to make a good job of it. You know, but they all got interfaces and they all got stuff. You know, it requires kit and it requires, you know, things to be able to do that. And I would love to, you know, personally, I don't care about playing on it, but I would love to be able to play some of the tracks and play bits out of the tracks, and you know, so that you can hear the examples of what we're talking about. But I don't know, in our world, it just isn't possible, you know, because we don't want, you know, copyright strikes and things. Otherwise, it just, you know, it gets taken down. How many times have you had to re-edit a, you know, a video to take something out because we got blocked, not copyright struck, but you know, yeah, you can't even see Greg Seven, can't even watch a documentary without it.
And shows will end up being 4 or 5 hours long, you know, which is just not going to happen. You know, you know, there's just no way. No, you know, we love hanging out with you folks, but there's just no way we're going to do a 5-hour show every Sunday, Brad. You know, it's just, it's not going to happen. But I've got some news for you guys, and you make a good point here, Greg Zeppelin. So I have been talking to our friend Hugh Caldwell. So we've got a solution to the Eric Clapton documentary, 12 Bars. What we'll do is in a couple of weeks' time, 3 or 4 weeks' time, what we'll do is I will send out invitations. I'll have an invitation here for you on street so you guys can follow it. And we'll have a StreamYards party here.
Ah.
Right.
Yeah. But not live.
No. And we'll watch it here.
Yeah.
But we can only have 10 people. So if you want to be one of the 10 people that wants to join us, you're going to have to flick us a message. Flick me an email or a message, or Brad or Simon, because we want to sort of collect those people that are interested, and we'll play the documentary, and we'll have 10 of us here, and we'll play it, and we can have that set up on the channel, and we'll set that up as a private. And if you want to look back at the video that we put on the channel after we've gone live behind the scenes, we can send you the invite.
The link. Yeah.
And you should be able to watch it as a private video.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. Yeah. That sounds like fun. Yeah. Yeah. I would suggest that you only need to have a phone, and I would suggest a pair of headphones, but you don't necessarily need a pair of headphones. But I mean, I do this on a phone. I do this on my phone. You know, I have a camera on my phone. I have an iPad for the chat. I have a laptop. I'm like the Starship Enterprise. I've got you know, my laptop for my Chromebook for my notes and stuff. But you know, it's you can do it off a laptop. You can do it off you know, you don't need a load of technology to do it. I have, you know, the actual me talking to you. I've got, you know, wireless headphones, which I like, but you can have wires. I've used wires a lot in the past, and I use a Samsung phone to do it. Advertising. Awesome. Oh, Andrew, I have one more thing. I have a small thing just to if people are not aware. There is, where is it? Am I going to lose it? There is a new book about Fleetwood Mac out by a bloke called Mark Blake. Which has interviews with all of the people involved in Fleetwood Mac, Peter Green, Danny Kerwin, all the way through. It's a kind of mosaic book. It's by a bloke called Mark Blake, and it's a kind of mosaic biography of a thing, but it contains interviews with everyone. And well, I heard about it yesterday. I was at on the Word in Your Ear podcast, which is David Hepworth and Mark Allen, who presented Live Aid in the UK. That's what they did. But they interviewed the guy Mark Blake about his book. So that's coming out. Worth checking out.
If you can send me that on Messenger, Simon, so I can check that out, that'll be great. So are we doing the Woodstock show next week? You remember how we said that we were going to?
Yeah. Yes. When is it? When is Woodstock? Woodstock is it's coming up for its 93rd anniversary, isn't it?
Didn't we say? Otherwise, Brad's going to pick an album. But I thought we were going to get together and just do a
Let's have a
Woodstock
look.
show.
Let's have a look. See, we were going to try and line it up with the 1969. That's right, because it'd be 55 years, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
August the 15th to the 18th. So we could do one more album next week and do Woodstock the week after.
Okay.
Or we could do Woodstock next week. I don't mind
We're
which.
going to leave that to the backdoor man. The backdoor man's going to make that decision for us.
Oh, he's on mute. So that's definitely how it's going to work.
Yeah.
Apparently, he's agreeing with us.
Let's possibly look at doing, I think, one more album than the Woodstock one, so we can prepare a little better too.
Cool, no problem. That sounds like a plan, bro. So you can let me know what the album is, brother, and we'll do a show card.
Yep.
For that, and we'll put that up and do some preparation. You need to, if you can, the Woodstock film is on Apple. It's on Apple TV. I know that, and if you don't have a DVD, so if you want to prepare yourself, give yourself a couple of weeks to go and watch it. And we're just going to get together and we're going to just spend 2 hours, Simon, aren't we? Just talking about it and stuff like that. We can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to spend a little bit more time with that one. You know what I mean? There's a fair bit involved in that. So
yeah. Awesome, brother. Thank you for watching. We've been on live here on the channel for just over 2 hours. So we're going to give the Rock Professor an opportunity to do a shout out. We had 18, 19, and I think at one stage about 20 people watching. So we do appreciate the people joining us.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Good.
Thank you everyone for joining us. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, press the subscribe button. And we don't really ever tell people to do the thumbs up either. Make sure you give us a thumbs up for the, for the algorithms and all that. It all helps. Every little bit helps. So that would be amazing. Thank you.
I can say that we've got 20 thumbs up on the show already. So I think that everyone who's watched it has given us a thumbs up. So thank you so much for that.
Yes,
That's
thank
fantastic. Yeah. So we can say thanks to Ellen. Sol, thanks Ellen for being it every week and being fantastic. Johnny Heartbreaker,
absolutely.
who wants us to do a Stooges album.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Oh,
winding you up.
You guys will have to do that by yourself.
Oh.
Now Johnny Heartbreaker can come on and do it with you.
Yeah, Johnny, you can come on as well. I'm bored. I'm the chairman of the board. Oh, fantastic. So we're looking forward to that, Johnny, with you coming on. Gret Zeppelin, Phil Byers, thank you guys. Tony Bowen, lots of fantastic comments. Helene O'Hara, lovely to see you, Helen. Fantastic, and I hope you're on the up. Matt Schaffer, good to see you, Matt. Nice, lots of comments there. Mission RD 100, thanks, Tony Bowen. Rolling back up. Jonas Halberg, nice to see you, Jonas. Fantastic. Joining in. Tony, and then Albert Arthur Parsnips, which is a fantastic name. Albert, thanks for you and all your fantastic comments as well. Crappy Luxury.
Cheers, Albert.
Yeah, fantastic. Really good. And thanks to everyone for their fantastic comments. It's we really value and appreciate them, because you know as much as we do about it, and putting things in the chat that haven't occurred to us is fantastic as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Brad Cook. Thanks, Brad. Great. Albert. Happy. Mission RD 100. Derek right at the top. Derek Clacton right at the top.
So Phil bought the album this week because of our show. So great, Phil. Fantastic.
Well, thank you very much. That's fantastic. That's kind of what we hope about these shows. Is somebody watches and thinks, oh, I might go and listen to that. Get it? That's cool.
I did.
And Mike
I
Rogers
did too.
as well. Yeah, you did as well. Mike Rogers. So nice of you to drop by, Mike. Hopefully I got everybody who made a comment. If I didn't, apologies, but hopefully I did. And have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next week for something that Brad is going to choose.
I'll talk to you boys about it in the green room.
Yeah, no worries. That's fine. Yes.
No problem. All right.
And
here, guys.
thanks, Andrew, for picking that album. It's a great one.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, cool stuff.
well, look, every album we do is a great album, isn't it? You know, and it's just like I said at the beginning of the show, guys. It was just our tribute to John, and we like to do that. We like to, you know, we've done some great tribute shows between the three of us, and it's the least we can do. And Tony, again, you know, everybody that contributes, but you know, Tony clearly is a John Mayall fan as well too. So having him jump on, yeah, it's just unbelievable. Thank you, brother.
Yeah,
Thank
fantastic.
you, guys.
Take care,
Thank
all.
you.
See you next week. Take it away, boss.
Where is it? Hold on.
It's-
Keep that.
he's
keep that
he's
hand
going to
up.
catch
Keep
us
that
out
hand up.
again, isn't he, Brad? He's going to catch us out again,
No,
isn't he?
I'm
Like he
not. I'd never
normally
do
does.
I'd never do that. Bye-bye.
Bye.